Okay. So have you ever gotten that creepy feeling like, someone's watching you online?
Uh-huh. I would think I haven't seen those ads that pop up right after I've been, like, searching for something.
Right. It's like, how did they know that? But it's getting even weirder, right? Like, straight out of a sci-fi movie, we're talking AI that can watch what we're doing on our computers in real time.
Yeah, that's definitely next level stuff. And
Yeah.
it's not just some far off thing either. It's already starting to happen.
Exactly. That's what we're diving into today. An article that asks basically which tech giant is winning the whole surveillance game. Is it Microsoft with its creepy new Windows recall thing? Or Apple with its iPhones that track like everything? Or is it good old Google watching our every move online?
Uh-huh. Good old Google. Well, I don't know if there's a clear winner in this scenario, but what's for sure is that all three of these companies are deeply invested in using AI to collect and analyze our data.
And they all have different ways of going about it. Like Microsoft's whole thing seems to be integrating AI right into the operating system. So that Windows recall thing, it's like having an invisible AI agent sitting right there on your desktop watching your every move.
It's pretty wild when you think about it. Like they're talking about capturing screenshots, maybe even recording from your webcam and microphone. And they say it's all to improve user experience, personalize your settings and all that. But it's hard not to feel like our privacy is being eroded.
Totally. It's like, sure, I want my computer to be more personalized, but not if it means I'm basically living in a digital fishbowl. And what's even scarier is that by the end of next year, most new PCs will probably have AI hardware built in, so it's not even going to be a choice for most people. It'll just be there watching.
Yeah, and I think that's what's so concerning to a lot of people. It's like we're sleepwalking into this future where surveillance is just a given, a built-in feature of the technology we use every day, and we don't really have a say in the matter.
Okay, but it's not just Microsoft, right? Apple is all about that privacy-focused image, but they're just as deep into data collection as anyone else. They just happen to be coming at it from the angle of, like, our phones, and those are with us, like, 24/7.
Yeah. Right, and Apple's really good at making data collection seem invisible. Like it's not even something you need to think about. But when you look at the sheer amount of data that iPhones collect, it's mind-blowing. They've got all those sensors tracking our location, our movements, our environment.
And then there's the whole facial recognition thing, right? Like, our phones can literally recognize our faces now.
Not just recognize them, but analyze them too. They can supposedly tell our mood, our age, even our health conditions, just by looking at our faces.
That is both really cool and super creepy at the same time.
Yeah, it's like this weird duality of technology where it has the potential to do amazing things, but it also has the potential to be incredibly invasive.
It's all about the trade-offs, right? Like, are we willing to give up some of our privacy in exchange for convenience or cool features? I think that's a question we all have to ask ourselves.
It's a tough one. And
Mhm.
honestly, I don't think there are any easy answers.
Yeah.
But I think the more informed we are, the better choices we can make.
So we've talked about Microsoft and Apple, but what about Google? They're like the granddaddy of data collection, right? I mean, they're
Ab-
everywhere.
oh, absolutely. Google's reach is immense. Think about it. Search, email, maps, YouTube, Android. They've got their fingers in so many pies.
Yeah.
And almost every website you visit is probably running Google Analytics, which tracks your every move.
It's like they've got this massive web and we're all just flies caught in it. But how do they actually do it? Like, how do they gather so much information about us?
Well, it all starts with that little Google search bar. Every time you type something in there, Google is collecting data on what you're interested in, what you're looking for, what you're thinking about.
And then they use that information to, what, target us with ads.
That's a big part of it,
Yeah.
but it goes beyond that. They use it to personalize your search results, recommend videos you might like, even suggest routes to take on Google Maps. It's all about creating this seamless, personalized experience that's tailored to you.
I guess that's the thing, right? It's easy to get seduced by the convenience and personalization of it all. But at what cost?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It really is. And it's not like any of us can just like quit the internet and go live off the grid. I mean, I love my phone. I use Google every day pretty much.
Mm.
So if we're all kind of stuck in the system, what can we do about it?
Right, it can feel kind of overwhelming, like we're just along for the ride.
Yeah.
But the first step is just being aware of it, like understanding how these companies are collecting and using our data. Once you start paying attention, you realize just how pervasive it really is.
For sure. And this article really opened my eyes to a lot of that stuff. Like, I had no idea my iPhone could track my movements so precisely, or that Google basically knows everything I've ever searched for online.
It's pretty amazing the technology they've developed. But it also raises some big questions about privacy and what
Mhm.
that even means in the digital age.
Yeah, exactly. Like, what are the limits? Where do we draw the line? Because it feels like those lines are constantly shifting and not always in our favor.
No kidding.
Hmm.
And that's where their AI comes in,
Mm.
right? It's not just about collecting data anymore. It's about analyzing it, finding patterns, making predictions. And that's where things start to get really interesting, but also, like you said, a little creepy.
Yeah, Google's got that new Gemini AI, right?
Yeah.
Tell me more about that, because I've heard it's supposed to be like a game changer in terms of how they use our data.
Right. So Gemini, it's still kind of under wraps, but from what we know, it's going to take AI to a whole new level. It's not just going to like serve up targeted ads based on your search history. It's going to try to anticipate your needs, maybe even influence your behavior in subtle ways.
Whoa. Okay, so now we're definitely in Black Mirror territory. Like, that's some next level stuff.
Yeah.
But how does that even work?
Well, imagine an AI that can understand the context of your online activity,
Right.
right? So it's not just looking at the keywords you search for, but like the time of day you're searching, your location, your past behavior. And it uses all that data to create a model of you, a kind of digital twin. And then it can use that model to predict what you might do next, what you might be interested in, even how you might feel.
Okay, that's both impressive and a little terrifying at the same time. Like, do we really want companies to have that much power over us to be able to, like, predict our every move?
That's the big ethical question, isn't it? And it's one that we as a society need to start grappling with now
Hmm.
because the technology is only going to get more sophisticated.
It's like we're on this runaway train and we need to figure out how to steer it before it's too late. But it feels like such a massive problem, right? Like, what can we as individuals even do about it?
It's true. These are big, powerful companies, but they're not invincible. And we're not powerless either. There are definitely things we can do to protect ourselves, to take back some control over our data.
So, like, what kind of things can we actually do? Because it's not like we can just, like, disappear from the digital world completely, right?
True, going off the grid completely isn't realistic for most people, but there's still things we can do to be smarter about our data.
Okay, so give me some hope here. What are some practical steps we can take?
Well, for starters, just being aware of the issue is huge. Like you said, this article really opened your eyes to some of the ways these companies are tracking us, and that's half the battle.
Right, because if you don't know what's going on, you can't really do anything about it.
Exactly. So once you're aware, then you can start making more conscious choices about the technologies you use and the data you share.
So, like, being careful about what permissions we give to apps and websites, that kind of thing.
Yep, that's a big one. Those app permissions can be really sneaky, you know? Like, why does a flashlight app need access to your microphone or your contacts list?
I know, right? It's like, just let me turn on the flashlight. But seriously, what else can we do?
Well, there are some great privacy-focused tools out there that can help, like browser extensions that block trackers and VPNs that can encrypt your internet traffic.
VPNs, yeah, I've heard of those. But they always seem kind of complicated to set up.
It used to be more complicated, but there are some really user-friendly ones now. And honestly, even just using a more privacy-focused search engine like DuckDuckGo instead of Google can make a difference.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of DuckDuckGo. They don't track your searches, right?
Exactly. And they're getting better all the time, so they're a viable alternative to Google for a lot of people.
Cool. So there are options out there, but it sounds like it really comes down to being proactive, right? Like, we can't just assume that our privacy is being protected. We have to take steps to protect it ourselves.
I think that's the big takeaway here. We have more power than we think, but we have to be willing to use it. And honestly, the more people who demand better privacy protections, the more these companies will have to listen.
That's a good point. It's like a vote with your wallet, right? If enough people start choosing privacy-focused products and services, that sends a message to the big tech companies that things need to change.
Exactly. And it goes beyond just individual actions, too. We need to be having these conversations on a larger scale, you know? Like talking to our friends and family about these issues, pushing for stronger privacy regulations from our governments.
Hmm.
It's going to take a collective effort to really move the needle on this.
You're right. It's not just a tech issue. It's a societal issue, and it's one that we all have a stake in. Well, this has been a fascinating and honestly kind of unnerving deep dive into the world of AI and surveillance. I definitely learned a lot, and I think it's safe to say that our digital lives are probably a lot less private than we think they are.
That's for sure. But the good news is we're not powerless. By becoming more aware of the ways our data is being collected and used, and by taking steps to protect our privacy, we can all help shape a future where technology serves us, not the other way around.
Right on. So, for all you listeners out there, be sure to check out the show notes for links to some of the privacy focused tools and resources that we mentioned. And in the meantime, stay curious, stay informed, and most importantly, stay vigilant.